Next, please welcome Mr. J. Paige Straley. Straley.
Sorry. Hello. I'm going to read you two poems, unless I get stopped. The first one is a sequel to this book, Jack's Christmas, which was a Christmas poem. I've sold quite a number of copies, 3,200, and so people like it. And this is the sequel. Jack is a rabbit. Ava is his friend. Now, Ava lived in a little white house. This is all rhymed storytelling. Okay, so much for advertising. Now, Ava lived in a little white house set deep in the cleft of the hills, where willow branches lapped green hedges, where the wind was always still. In the morning sun, her deep green lawn fell away and away until it ran on straight through the arbor gate and onto the forest trail. She was always the last as the school bus passed by the house and the deep green lawn. And warm or cold by the side of the road, her mother waited alone. Her dad worked hard and traveled far, but his words ran round and round. You can go to the gate, she could hear him say, but don't ever go beyond. So she sat at the gate, dreaming her way to places and back of the stars, of princes and oceans and eagles and notions of silver and golden bars. There wasn't a trace in her motionless face of the worlds she silently roamed. Her mother smiled as she watched her child these willows whispering down. Then came a day all yellow and gray, deep in red October, when Ava slept beneath her coverlet while leaves swept through the arbor. Her dad sat close as the fever glowed, never moving from her side. A strong, calloused man, but he held her hand as tender as a bride. But in Ava's mind, she felt just fine as she journeyed out of the room. Like an arrow of fate, she pushed past the gate and into the forest gloom. At first it seemed the trail was clean, a path through a leafy mall. But it soon grew as faint as faded paint, crusted on an old rock wall. In the stilly gloom, she felt the loom of a brownish, hairy lump. Bear blinked at her and pushed at a door, concealed in the crook of a stump. "Go on inside," he roughly said. She let out a sort of a moan. She peered through a crack, saw a carving rack and a plate full of horrid bones. So then she knew Dad's fears were true and shocked her to the core. But when Bear drew close, she was on her toes and ran down the forest floor. Bear's champing jaws and his ripping claws were coming all too near. So she dashed off the track and doubled back and watched the bear disappear. Oh, she didn't wait or rusticate, but darted back up the way. Oh, her breath ran ragged and her legs sagged and her strength was slipping away. Yet on she went till her muscles were spent, then finally stopped to rest. And there in a beach, just out of reach, a vulture sat on her nest. It rattled its wings to waken its darlings, then whetted its clacking beak. "I'm glad you've come, for my chicks are young, and you'll look a likely feast." "I'm not so choice," she said in a voice that quavered like a reed. Then she raced like a deer when the hounds are near, at its greatest hour of need. But now as she ran down the path again, she noticed two floppy ears, a big bum keeping pace, and when she saw his face, she almost burst into tears. 'Twas Jack from her room, a gift from her mom. Now he waved a paw in the air. Ava whispered aside as the vulture passed by them. Jack smiling, so debonair. "You're Jack," she gasped. "Who, me?" he asked, and waggled his raggedy ears. Then he let out a tweet through his big front teeth. And who do you think up here? Why, Mopsy and Peter, Brer and Velveeta, and Jackalope, so brave. They crowded round Ava in the dripping cave, and then she was not so afraid. They took to the road in back of the lope, who cleared the path ahead. Old Jack stayed back to watch their tracks and scan the sky overhead. Well, they made good time till they came to a Y where two trails looked the same. And there stood Fox in his red suit and socks, saying, "Say, don't I know your name?" Ava knew him right through, and her voice warmed the crew. She politely asked the way out. His devilish grin showed the grease on his chin as he pointed vaguely south. "Yon's old cliffside drops off to the creek side. Here's out of this place." Then Foxy blabbered, spouting nonsense and chatter, and minutes went to waste. But brave Lope was wary and warned the whole party. Then a hawk swept silently past. The crew seized old Fox. Jack sternly said, "Stop. Then the truth now, and none of your trash." Fox struggled and squirmed, but he soon learned how strong the rabbits could be. "Oh, of course, go right. I'm confused tonight. Head for the old pine tree." Did he say, "Beware, the owl perches there"? Or did he just struggle and cry? They let Fox go, and he straightened his coat and fiddled with his tie. "Goodbye, fellas, and travel well, and glad I'm not with you because sure you smell." The rabbits just rolled their eyes. But Jack knew the owl was a nighttime flower. She flew at the first peep of dawn. So they tramped the steep way over rocks and red clay, a trail like a devil's backbone. At the end of the night, they found the big pine with the owl still perched on her throne. And just as the rays pierced the morning haze, the owl softly flew to her home. Oh, the arbor gate shone and the birds were in song, but Ava had the blues, for Jack and his trying to stay on this side. They could not travel through. Ava knelt on the ground and gathered them round and kissed them one by one. Then with many a sad wave, she walked through the gate and over her deep green lawn. She woke up in bed with a hand to her head, trying to sort out her dream. Dad sat at her side, and lined up beside her were all of her rescue team, Mopsy and Peter, Brer and Velveeta and Jackalope, so brave. It had the right feel to have all been real, and she truly had been saved. There, tucked in back, was her old friend Jack, raggedy, with button eyes. He gave her a wink, or so you might think, and much to her surprise, her dad said, "Ava, old Jack's a favorite, for ever since you took sick, the ragged old hair's crouched right there. He's never missed a lick." And the epilogue. From that moment on, Ava grew strong as a hickory tree. Night air did blow through the open window as she slept, breathing free. The moon shone bright, its magical light fell square on Ava's friends. They quivered and sighed and opened their eyes and listened to the wind. At the window sat Fox, still in red suit and socks, gazing about the room. But Jack was there, and he gave Fox a stare that would put him in his tomb if he touched Ava's hair and disturbed the air above her where she lay. So Fox looked down at the deep green lawn, thought of the arbor gate. Then he jumped right out, slid down the rain spout, and ran across the moon-silvered lawn. Jack stood in the window as still as a statue, with words in his head like a song. "You can go to the gate." He could hear him say, "But don't ever go beyond." And under the stars, at the end of the yard, Fox waved and was gone.